Look, we believe that any player can hit Immortal. That might sound crazy, but hear me out. There are 8 core mechanics in Valorant that if you master them, you will climb. No aim trainers, no lineups, no crazy strategies, just 8 fundamental mechanics that most players completely overlook. Some of these might surprise you, some of them might seem obvious, but I guarantee you you're slacking in a few of these areas. And we can even make it a game. If I mention something that you struggle with, or maybe even something that you haven't thought about, you've got to give this video a like. And if I get to the end of the video and you feel like you've mastered all of these things, I give you permission to dislike the video. Let me know that I've got to try harder next time. Let's get into it. Starting out with what actually makes players climb fast in Valorant. It's not perfect aim, it's not flashy plays, it's proper spacing with their teammates. This is going to completely change how you approach gunfights. In Valorant, a gun can only shoot 1 bullet at a time. Even if somebody has perfect spray control with a Phantom, they still need to adjust between targets, and realistically, it's a tough thing to do consistently. This is why proper spacing is so powerful. When you swing an angle 2v1, that enemy can only shoot one of you. Even if they're Radiant, even if they're cheating, they physically can't kill both of you at the exact same time. This means that the trade is almost guaranteed. But here's what happens in lower ranks. Players are so focused on their own game that their teammates might as well not exist. They're tunnel visioned on their own crosshair, and they don't even notice that their jet is dashing into sight. They miss their teammate pushing up for space. They're just playing a solo game, and then when they lose, they blame their teammates. Let me show you what good spacing actually looks like. For most of you, when your teammate swings through a smoke, believe it or not, a lot of players would just watch. But me, I'm excited. They have already done the riskiest part of the entire round for me. They've already pushed through that smoke. All I have to do is push through with them and be ready to trade. Watch any pro game, the trades are insane. When they swing together. When they clear angles, they clear those angles together. And when they take space, well, you guessed it, they take it together. This is by far the biggest difference between low and high ranks. When I see a teammate running in first, I'm not thinking, oh no, they're feeding. I'm thinking, we gotta go help that guy. Look at all the free space that they just made. You can literally run up with your knife out and catch up to them. I'm thinking, I need to be there ready to shoot whoever shoots at them. You know those duelist players who seem to just destroy your team? Like every time you see them, they just completely ace. Sure, maybe their aim is better than yours, but normally the reason that they're able to get away with it so much is because you guys aren't swinging close enough together. Excuse my language, but you need to be on your teammate's ass. And it's hard. It's not easy to be always conscious of what your teammates are doing, especially when you're playing in ranked and they haven't said anything half the time. But if it were easy, everyone would be Radiant. It's something that you've got to practice and get better at every day. And honestly, it's probably the #1 mistake that I see low elo players make. They just don't realize that their teammates exist and they never try to play off of them. We get it though. Teammates in low elo can be really frustrating to play off of. They're just unpredictable, and you never really know what they're going to do. It's easy for high elo players like me to tell you to work with your teammates more because they don't really know what low elo is like. But here at SkillCapped, we do. I've actually personally made the hellish climb from Iron to Diamond multiple times and uploaded all of the games that I played to our website as I dealt with throwers, AFKs, and insta-lock duelists. Not only that, but I provided the commentary during those matches so that you can follow along with my exact thought process as I learned to play around teammates from hell. I teach you how you can use those terrible teammates to your advantage so you too can climb out of low elo and never have to play with them again. And you've got nothing to lose because we literally offer a rank improvement guarantee at SkillCapped. So if you don't climb, you don't pay. If you want to see where our rank guarantee will land you in just a few weeks, be sure to check out our free ranked calculator over at SkillCapped. And other than that, let's get to our next mechanic. Now, in every FPS game, movement is what separates the good from the great. You see those players who just seem impossible to hit. Those players who make their opponents look completely lost. Movement in Valorant, though, isn't about those flashy plays. It's about winning those crucial 2 to 3 second gunfights. Think about it. Every time you're in a gunfight, there's a small window where everything matters. This is exactly why it's really subtle and most people don't notice how important movement is. Although sometimes it might feel like you get one-tapped right away, most of the time you actually have a lot more time than you realize, and good movement only buys you more time. Let's break down what actually happens in these fights. You peek an angle, spot the enemy, and take your first shots. This is where most players mess up. They commit to a static crouch spray without really thinking about the situation. And because of that, they become a sitting duck. But watch how a good player handles this. They take the first shots, miss, and then they instantly change positions. The enemy is now shooting out where they were, not where they are. It's not just about that first kill though, it also matters what you do afterwards. You'll notice this level of brain lag present in lower elo players after they land a kill. They're not immediately moving on to the next thing, they're still thinking about what they should do. Good players are already repositioning instantly, which allows them to catch timings and free kills that opponents just don't always expect. You need quick, decisive movement that keeps your opponents guessing. And when it comes to movement, even the smallest things really matter. While there aren't a ton of skill jumps in the game, the mechanics needed to make these jumps actually do transfer over towards other things. For example, bunny hopping up ledges can be really important to do quickly. You don't want to just come to a full stop every single time you need to climb up elevation. Sometimes jumping on top of spaces like Generator on Ascent can be a really good position to be in. Not being able to make this jump consistently isn't going to cost you Immortal or anything, but it might cost you a round or two, which could cost you a game. All these little things compound together. That's why it's important to master all of these 8 mechanics, because if one of your skills is down here, it's going to bring down the other 7 of them. Remember, the chain is only as strong as its weakest link. Now, have you ever held an angle perfectly only to have a neon slide right past your crosshair? It's very common in this meta, and also incredibly annoying. Sometimes she even has a shotgun, and you're really just getting one shot to kill her before you just get one pumped. Sometimes though, one shot is all you need. That's why things like crosshair placement are so important in Valorant. In some gunfights, all you're going to get is one shot. And against a neon or a jet with knives, that tight corner hold isn't going to cut it. You need to be holding significantly wider, ready for that fast peek or slide, because they're not going to peek like a normal agent. That's just one reason why most players' crosshair placement just isn't as good as they think though. Anyone can just aim at what they think is head level and call it a day. But in a lot of situations, it can actually be really tricky to get great crosshair placement. For example, if you're fighting someone on a sort of elevation, a slight step back or forward by the defender completely changes their head position. This is part of the reason it's not very favorable to fight people on elevation. You just can't pre-aim them as well. Luckily, there's an easy way to figure out if you struggle with this or not. Want to know if your crosshair placement is actually as good as you think? Record your next few games. Oh, I know, boring VOD review, ugh. Listen, if you're bored and don't want to do it, I get it. But just don't watch a full game then. Just watch a few rounds. 3 to 4 rounds and just watch your crosshair. I guarantee you'll find yourself aiming at walls, at the ground, or just slightly off of where the enemies could peek. And if you're already a bit higher elo, maybe you'll notice situations where somebody swings right past your crosshair. Could that have been expected? Were you aiming too close? Is this a common habit for you? Maybe something to look into. So let's talk about aiming in Valorant differently than most people think about it. Here's the thing, your crosshair placement is doing most of the heavy lifting. So when we talk about good aim, we're really just talking about something specific. When your crosshair placement isn't exactly on target, how well do you correct? It might surprise you to hear that many players don't adjust at all. The player swings right past their crosshair and they just start spraying, missing every shot. It's the same thing when they're strafing. They're just used to letting the game do all of the work for them, and they don't actually ever adjust their crosshair at all when strafing. This is where mouse control and aiming comes in. Your keyboard hand needs to be working with your mouse hand if you want to be the most effective in your matches. Weird to say it, but you need to adjust your crosshair in gunfights. You can't just shoot. Good mouse control is about how you track your targets on your screen, or even just trace your crosshair around a corner as you're scaling up. You could also be talking about things like how often are you resetting your mouse's position. It's something that you don't think about when you watch players like Aspas or Tens, but they face the same physical limitations as you do. It's not like their mouse just has endless room to navigate. Sometimes they need to pick it up and reset their aiming position. When you know that you're about to take a fight, do you ever reset your mouse position? Or do you just take a fight knowing that you're not completely comfortable? Pro players think about how they can optimize these things. They're constantly finding moments in the games where they can center their mouse to get back to a position where they have the most control. Because when every micro adjustment matters, you need to be starting from a position of strength. These are just a few of the things that separate good mouse control from great mouse control. Now, when we're talking about mechanics, we gotta bring up Gamesense. The problem is that Gamesense has just become this catch-all term that doesn't really mean much anymore. Players throw it around to describe pretty much everything that isn't aim. So let's break it down into what actually matters. And map awareness, that is probably at the top of the list. Because without knowing what's going on the map, how can we make any strategic decisions? Think about it. You can't make a smart rotation if you don't know where the enemies are applying pressure. You would probably get caught off guard by lurks super often, which truly wouldn't be showcasing great game sense. And you can't play off of your teammates super effectively if you don't look at the map. Like, if you don't even know where your teammates are standing, how are you possibly going to support them? I actually have an interesting tidbit for you though. You know when you guys are watching pro play, I don't know if you've ever tuned into VCT or anything, but where do your eyes normally go? Are you watching the player's crosshair on the screen? Or are you looking at the map most of the time? Something I've noticed is that the average player tends to really only be paying attention to what's on the center screen. However, analysts and pro players tend to spend a lot of the time watching the game from the minimap. They're watching the positions that players are in, the rotations, and the way that the teams manipulate their space. Is there a lurker setting up a play right now? Or is there an omen who is getting into a position for a perfect blind? While gunfights are awesome, the real strategic game of Valorant is played on the map. Let me show you a common scenario that showcases why this is important. You're attacking on Haven and your map shows that 3 enemies are playing on C. For players with good map awareness, the next most obvious move is that A site is vulnerable. In fact, it's practically free. But if you're not checking your map regularly, you miss these opportunities completely. I get it though that it's a lot to look at the map constantly. It's actually part of the reason that IGLs get critiqued a lot for their performance. Here's the secret though. You don't need to IGL. All you gotta do is get used to looking in your map during downtime. Just practice looking at the map when you can't be peeked. Like your teammates are in front of you, so you're not the first line of contact. Or when you're planning the spike and you can't fight anyway. These are prime times to look at the map because it doesn't risk anything. In fact, it almost even keeps you protected. Ironically, the more map aware that you are, the more you'll find that you can actually look at the map because you'll know just where the people are and you'll know that you can't be peeked right then. Most players are so focused on their crosshair that they forget to zoom out and see the bigger picture. Great game sense doesn't come out of nowhere. You have to be aware. It comes from consistently gathering and using that information. Another thing that can play into your game sense is just your agent mastery. Now, if you want to hit Immortal, there are a lot of agents to pick from. Now, here's the secret. You don't need to master all of them. You only need to master one. Not 5, not 3, just 1. Now, let me explain why. A lot of players think that they need this deep agent pool. They think they need to flex every role. They think they need to learn every lineup. But here's what actually wins you games. Having a deep playbook of tricks on one single agent that you know will work. Think about it. On any given map with your main agent, you should have 5 to 6 reliable plays. Plays that you know inside and out. Plays that you can pull out when your team needs a round. Let's say you're a Yoru main. Maybe you have a specific flash lineup on Haven that's basically guaranteed to blind someone. The first time you throw it in a game, almost certainly a free kill. Now imagine having 5 to 6 plays like this. That's 5 to 6 rounds that you could potentially get the first blood and win for your team, just by knowing your agent deeply. This is way more valuable than being decent at 5 different agents. Because here's the truth about ranked. You're not playing a VCT. You don't need to counterpick. You don't need to fill every role. What you need is to be exceptionally good at one thing. When you master one agent, everything improves. Your utility usage becomes pristine on that agent. You learn every position that agent excels in. You understand exactly how you can support your team effectively. And you build up an arsenal of reliable plays. Remember, you're not trying to compete at champions. You're trying to climb in ranked. And in ranked, a master of one agent will always outperform a jack of all trades. Now let's talk about one of the hardest mechanics in Valorant to master though. And it's not aim, it's not movement, it's communication. Here's something that most players don't think about. A lot of players haven't had much practice actually communicating. Maybe they were quiet in school and didn't step out of their comfort zone. Maybe they mostly played single player games before Valorant. Now suddenly they're in a competitive team environment where communication is crucial. And here's why it's so important. Some days your aim isn't going to be there, but you can still make all the same callouts that you normally do. You can still build up that confidence in your team and keep the vibes up. It sounds silly, but vibes are really important. Even when you're dead, you can help win rounds. Now, remember when we said that map awareness can be hard? Well, one of the best parts about being dead is it frees you up to be completely aware of what's going on in the round. You can look up at the map and you can call things out for your teammates that they might be missing while they're focused on the game. If you're spectating a teammate in a 2v2, try to help call stuff out for them. Maybe somebody tapped the spike. Maybe you heard a footstep that they didn't. Maybe you saw something while spectating that they couldn't focus on. This isn't backseat gaming, this is just communicating well. But it goes beyond just making calls. Being positive towards your team can actually improve everyone else's performance. Look at players like Zelsis in the pro scene. Sure, he's an exceptional player. He's actually insane. But he's also known for being someone that teammates love to play with. Think about it. If you can elevate everyone else's play by 10% just by being positive and talking, even if you only play at 80% that day, you're bringing your team up to 120%. And that's how you win games. If you've really got to think about it though, just ask yourself this. Do you want to be somebody that people want to play with or somebody that they avoid? And then finally, here's something that might seem odd in a mechanics guide. The last thing we need to talk about is your mental state. No, it's not technically a mechanic, but half this game is confidence. And if you can't control your mental, none of the other mechanics matter. Let me show you what I mean. When you're queuing in Valorant, you're going to play a lot of games. Even the best players don't have 100% win rates. But watch what happens in the lower ranks. Round 1, someone dies. And then instantly in chat, somebody says, "You guys are horrible." If you start the game expecting your team to be horrible, guess what? They're going to be horrible. You've already lost. Here's how you should be thinking though. Lost pistol round, whatever, go next. Bad half, take it round by round, maybe we can win. Having an off day, it happens to everyone. Even pro players bottom frag sometimes. Some days you are going to struggle. And that's okay. The best players in the game have bad days too. You know what they do? They just move on. Because they play the game so much that one bad game doesn't even matter. They have bottom fragged before. They've had those 2-kill games. Everyone has. What matters is how you handle it. Because when you're trying to improve at Valorant, you need to recognize that sometimes you're just going to have off days. The key is being able to mentally reset, to check your tilt, and to focus on the round at hand. Because at the end of the day, your mental state affects everything. It affects your aim, your decision making, your communication, and if you can't control your mental, you can't control the game. Alright though guys, before we wrap this up though, let me tell you a little bit more about SkillCapped. So we've been helping players like you rank up in Valorant for over the last 4 years. Since our channel launched in 2020, we've helped thousands of players climb out of low elo. Over the years, we have been able to test our methods, and we have found a way to make ranked stupid simple so that anyone can rank up insanely effectively. Valorant can be really hard at times, but with SkillCapped, we make it easy. In just a few weeks, we can take pretty much any player and help them rank up 5 divisions or their money back. That's our guarantee that we offer, so if you're really thinking about climbing, be sure to check out our free rank calculator with our link below. And other than that, we'll catch you in the next one.